Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. Broadcasting throughout the United Kingdom and around the world, we're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter and on TikTok. And for viewers on TikTok, the best experience to be had is at our youtube.com/UK, a force for good. This is our 25th show, folks, our 25th show of the year. Thank you to everybody who helps make that happen. You know who you are, and thanks as well to all our viewers, the loyal viewers and the new viewers. We love you all. What a show it's going to be tonight. At the bottom of the hour at 7:30 we have the great guest Caelan Wynne. He is the very talented individual who creates the patriotic flag and woodwork designs that you've seen before. He's a great unionist. He is a great chap. He's always got a lot to say, and no doubt we'll be hearing his thoughts on the Tory Leadership campaign that's going on and on everything else that's happening here in Scotland and our wonderful United Kingdom. So Caelan's coming up at 7:30, and up until then we'll be having pro-UK unionist chat on this platform. So please do send in your messages, folks. Please send in your comments, send in your thoughts, and we'll do our best to give you a shout out. What a day it is as well, because of course we have got a new Prime Minister who's going to be lined up for us sometime at the end of the summer. And today the Conservative Party whittled it down to the remaining 6 people, and we'll be talking about that. What are your thoughts? Who do you think would be the best leader, not only of the Tory Party, but of course for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? And that's what we're all about, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Who is going to be the best to keep that together, and who's going to be the best to stick it to Sturgeon? Okay, who can stick it to Sturgeon with the most appropriate diplomatic vehemence in order to knock her off her perch? Okay, who of the 6 remaining candidates? And Adam says, you should have seen Prime Minister's questions, especially at the start. The only 2 Alba Party MPs got kicked out for trying to bring up points of order in regards to India F2, which really ticked off the Speaker. Thank you, we mentioned it. You know what? We're going to play that video because this is a funny video. Oh man, this is a funny video of the Speaker getting slightly riled. Slightly riled he was. And we'll just share this to the stream at the moment. And you won't see this on TikTok, folks, but this is the Speaker getting annoyed at the 2 Alba Party MPs, Neil Hanvey and Kenny McCaskill. Okay, these guys have got form for just being kind of, you know. Here is the Speaker getting irritated with them.
Order! Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out. I warn the honourable member that if there's protesting carrying out, shut up a minute.
Shut up a minute.
Does somebody want to at once?
Give me the names.
Order.
Give me the names.
You want me in the future. I now warn of the honourable members that if they persist in refusing to comply with my order to withdraw, I shall be compelled to name both of them, which may lead to them being suspended from the House. Right, the names.
Right, the names.
To ensure that the honourable member complies. What's the names?
What's the names? What's the names?
I order. Shut it. Shh. Neil Hanvey, I am now naming you and Kenny McCaskill to leave this chamber. Sergeant, deal with them. Deal with them.
Deal with them.
Deal with them. Just sit down. Out. No. Sergeant at Arms, escort them out. Get them out, Sergeant. Get them out.
One of the funniest things about that was he didn't know the names, which doesn't surprise me. He doesn't have to know the names because they're kind of irrelevant people anyway. But they made a remark there today in Westminster. But that made me think, you know, how boisterous, and I like boisterism, I really do, how boisterous is Westminster compared to the sanitised Holyrood, where you can't, like, somebody gets angry, you can still hear a pin drop. You know, it's just so wet. Holyrood is so wet. Oh! Whereas Westminster's still got all that good old shouting at each other, which I quite like, I have to say. Anyway, that was the Speaker. Sergeant, deal with them. Deal with them, Sergeant. Oh, it's Stuart. Yeah, are they honourable members? I don't know about that. Pauline says, exciting times in politics, so much to consider. Stephen goes, yeah, they're so insignificant, he never knew the names. He had to ask 3 times. And the girl next to him's going, Neil Hanvey, Neil Hanvey. Yeah, Adam says, what's so honourable about those two? I suppose it's better to call them the Honourable Kenny McCaskill than the absolute whatever Kenny McCaskill. I suppose is quite a good convention, that. The way the Conservative Party leadership works, very briefly for those who don't know, is that the Conservative MPs vote on all the ones who put their name forward. And then the people who fail to reach 30 votes are automatically excluded. And then it goes to a second vote. So the first vote was today, and Nadeem Shawadiwadi and Jeremy Stunt got removed. Thankfully, let's put up the actual picture of the votes here so we can see exactly what we're looking at. Rishi Sunak was the main leader there with 88 of the MPs' votes, with Penny Mordaunt coming in at 67, Liz Truss at 50 and Kemi Badenoch at 40. And as you see there at the bottom, Nadeem Shawadiwadi and Jeremy Stunt haven't got very much support, which I'm certainly pleased to see, I have to say. Although we as an organisation, we don't take a view on who should be the next leader or not, but we are of course interested to see who would be the best for standing up for the Union of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And it looks like it's going to come down to basically those top 4, okay? I'm presuming that Suella Braverman's supporters will probably be split between giving their votes tomorrow to Kemi Badenoch and perhaps Penny Mordaunt. Tom Tugendhat, who was virtually unknown to the entire world until about 72 hours ago, I don't know anything about him or where his supporters' votes are likely to go. And I was very surprised today because I found out that Tom Tugendhat was probably a lieutenant general. A lieutenant general. I don't know what of. I mean, the Lego army perhaps. But a lieutenant general, and that surprises me because I've seen tougher looking polystyrene. An interesting development, of course, is this Kemi Badenoch, and it'd be nice to see her get through to the final round. Okay, now I didn't know much about Kemi Badenoch. I looked it up. Badenoch is Scottish Gaelic for drowned land. Can you believe that? Drowned land. And she's married to a chap called Hamish Badenoch, who's perhaps of Scottish ancestry, I don't know. Anyway, She seems to be very intelligent as far as Tory MPs go, which of course isn't saying a whole lot, but as far as having interesting ideas are concerned, I actually read her say this, and let me look for the quote. Yes, in her maiden speech as an MP on the 19th of July, Kemi Badenoch described the vote for Brexit as, quote, the greatest ever vote of confidence in the project of the United Kingdom. That's great words. The project of the United Kingdom. That's like she seems to understand, as we do, that the United Kingdom is the great work of time. And this was what really kind of surprised me. She said she cited her personal heroes as Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, and Airy Neve. Wow. I mean, citing Airy Neve as one of your three personal heroes is remarkable, because of course many of us will know that Airy Neve was perhaps a great Prime Minister who never was, but after being cruelly murdered, of course, by the IRA, or the INLA as they pretended to call themselves. So I mean, she's certainly got a good heritage as far as that's concerned, and also a wisdom here, pointing out that somebody sent me this article, this interview with her in the Sunday Telegraph on the 10th of July, when she says, she's asked, how did the government manage to be blown so far off course from the core conservative values espoused during Johnston's leadership election campaign and the 2019 election? Because of course people voted to stop immigration and to like reduce immigration anyway, and to get Brexit done. So how did it get blown off, all of that? And she made a really good point, which I thought was very insightful, and more insight here than you'll usually get in a member of parliament. She goes, this comes from trying to keep everybody happy, and I think that has been one of the hardest things to deal with as you get a bigger majority. You're creating a broader coalition, and trying to keep everybody happy is difficult. We've got to be able to set an agenda, not ask everybody what they want and then try to please them all. I think that this is the kind of example of what happens when you don't do that. So obviously somebody that thinks about politics anyway, whether she's got a chance or not, I don't know. The favourites seem to be Sunak and Mordaunt, and as somebody said to me today, that Sunak will probably win the MP's vote, but what then happens is it has to go to the party membership, and I'd put money on the fact that whoever, and it's going to be one of these women, it's going to be either Mordaunt, Truss or Badenoch standing against Sunak. Whoever is standing against Sunak will win the membership vote. That's probably what is almost certainly on the cards. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are. Stuart says the Wolf of Badenoch burned down Elgin Cathedral. Adam wonders, would Rishi Sunak still disallow the SNP their indie ref? Let's see, we don't know enough about these folk to know their position on all of that. So who knows? I suppose what it comes down to from a unionist perspective is who's got the best chance of, who's going to be the best at articulating what the United Kingdom is today, which requires somebody who knows what it's been in the past in order to know how we got to where we are, in order to know where we're going. Who's going to be the best at doing that and appearing to the great mass of the people as the most like them as well in many ways. Who's got the best presence? Who's got the best leadership presence? That would be the question. And certainly people all have their own views on who that would be. But if you don't have that presence, then it's going to be difficult for them to win an election. Boris had a rather unusual presence in that he played on a kind of jolly presence, which worked to an extent until he came up against people who weren't so jolly. As I say, I don't really know who. I know that Penny Mordaunt has written this book called Greater Britain After the Storm, the storm being supposedly COVID. Can I still say that without getting banned on YouTube? I don't know. But the problem is that if you can see that foreword by Bill Gates, see, that's a wee bit of a problem, I have to say. I mean, much as I love Penny Mordaunt, or think that she might be a nice person, writing a book and saying Pharmer Bill, Pharma Bill, could you write the foreword? I mean, I wouldn't be looking at that as an endorsement at all. However, she's co-written it with some guy called Chris Lewis, and I don't know how much of it she wrote and how much of it she just signed off on. But there's a lot of ideas and stuff in here. I only managed to read the first chapter, but I'm going to have to look at it much more closely in future. But at least she's got some ideas. She's got some ideas, even if the people who are endorsing her are not what I would call politically appropriate for a national conservative to be taking tea with. Oh my goodness me! And that's one of the big problems with the modern the modern politics in general, is that so many governments of the West have essentially been captured by big corporate interests, and we saw that in the last 2 years. The extent to which pharmaceutical corporatism has dominated the ideologies of the Western government, the ideology of safetyism, which is pushed deliberately by the pharmaceutical corporate interests, pushed at the expense of the concepts of individual and national freedoms. And so that's something to be aware of. And to what extent are those candidates, all of them, including Kemi Badenoch, to what extent are they aware that the governments of the West right now are subject to this pharmaceutical corporatism that's promoting safetyism rather than freedom? Do they see that that's an agenda that's been put upon them, or are they just going along with it because it sounds hunky-dory to them? It's a good question, and I don't know, but we need people who have that depth of understanding of where we are at the moment. Because, just talking about tax cuts and the freedom of the individual or something like that, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it anymore. I mean, we're living in dangerous times where the whole concept of what the West has known about democracy is almost like up for grabs, where at any time the system can shut us down. We've seen that. Shut up our bank accounts, stop us travelling, lock us down on pain of being put in prison. That's still there. That's just sitting there. Do we have somebody who's going to fight against that? And when you look at these candidates, are they strong enough to do that? I don't know. I don't know if they are. I'd like to think that they are, and if they're not, that they will grow to become so. Because goodness me, that's what we need. That's what we need in the West. Somebody who sees this march of globalism that we are under, the dominance of globalism, the march of pharmaceutical corporatism, as I'm calling it. Stephen says, when she wrote the book in 2020, Mr. Gates was not as toxic then. That's a point. I came up with this phrase today, Pharmer Gates, Pharmer Gates, and his new method of farming, Pharming, because he's in Edinburgh right now, and he released a video yesterday talking about how cows had to be vaccinated. No kidding. Once you've run out of humans to give the injection to, it's like onto the cows now. What next? Chickens. There's zillions of chickens in the world. If every chicken has to get one of my little shots in the wing, then think how much of a zillionaire I can become. That, I'm sure, is his thinking. And all the politicians, oh yeah, good idea, let's vaccinate all the chickens. Because chickens can't survive, apparently, without a chemical combination inside them. Ian says, Kemi hates NGOs. That's something, well, good to hear. Good to hear that she dislikes non-governmental organisations, all of which are just for people to make money from doing very little. And Jordan wants somebody who is against the Green or WEF agenda that is wrecking other nations like Holland or Sri Lanka. Absolutely. The globalists today are described basically by the World Economic Foundation, the so-called the World Health Organization, health inverted commas. These are the globalist organizations, which have, I know the word capture is very intense word, but it almost feels like they've been captured, that the governments have been captured by the WHO and WEF. It almost feels like that, and you should have a politician that's not going to put up with that. Yeah, we've got our guest Caelan coming up at the bottom of the hour, and I see that he is in the waiting room, and we'll be speaking to him in 5 minutes at 7:30. So just before then, we're going to talk about this day in British history, because British history matters, because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you are if you don't know where you have been. And many of us knew exactly where we were been in 1985 on this day, 13th of July, which was Live Aid at Wembley, and there was also a simultaneous broadcast in Philadelphia. And the Wembley show was watched by in the presence of Prince Charles and Diana at the time. It was opened by the Coldstream Guards playing God Save the Queen, and it went straight into Status Quo playing Rocking All Over the World. And we put up a video of that this morning on our TikTok and also on our Facebook, and we'd like to show it, but YouTube is a little bit funny with music, and sometimes it will just cut a live feed if you play music that it picks up and believes has not been properly copyrighted for display. So we don't want to risk playing that wee video, but it's a great wee video. You can see it on our Facebook page of Status Quo opening Live Aid with the very appropriate Rocking All Over the World. What else on this day? A few years prior to that, Winston Churchill got his famous photograph taken by an Armenian photographer called Yousaf Karsh. And there's the famous photograph. That was Yousaf Karsh took that photograph. And Yousaf Karsh died on this day actually in 2002, although he took that photograph back in 1941 in the Speaker's Room of the Parliament of the House of Commons in Canada. So that's actually Winston Churchill in Canada, and that's the famous picture of him which appears on the British Central Bank £5 note. Now, the story behind that's quite interesting because Churchill had just simply finished giving a speech to the Canadian Parliament, and he went into this back room and he didn't realise it had all been set up for a photograph, and he wasn't very pleased about that because nobody had told him. So he lit up his cigar and he started to puff away, and Yousaf Karsh said to him, could you put your cigar down? And he wouldn't put his cigar down. So Yousaf Karsh just continued to set about setting up the camera, and then he walked over to Churchill and snatched the cigar out Churchill's mouth and walked back to the camera. And Churchill was fuming at this. As you can see, he doesn't look happy, and Karsh just clicked the button, and there you go. He got that photograph. Okay. So that was a rather amusing tale of how he managed to get Churchill looking so belligerent there. He snatched the cigar out of his mouth. But he also took one or two other photographs, and he took one of Churchill almost seeming to smile here, which in fact is his favourite photograph of that particular day. But 1941, it was not a laughing matter, it was not a smiling matter, it was a very belligerent matter, and so the first photograph is the one that went down in history. Now, talking about pro-UK treats, we have for you the multi-talented Caelan Wynne, and I'm just going to bring Caelan into the programme right now, so please say hello to Caelan.
How's it going, Alistair?
Hey, absolutely, it's going fine. That looks like you're in your workshop right now?
Yeah, I'm in my shed today. The sun came out a bit, so I decided to come in here. So
right.
Lighting's much better as well.
Yeah, because you're working basically every day on these wood work designs that you're making. Have you been able to work in this sweltering heat?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, the shed that I built, you can see it's got like gaps in it because the wood like shrank when I basically I used the wrong wood to build the shed, because the shed was the first thing I made, and then so it's actually quite a cool shed. Like it never gets hot, and it's got a clear roof as well. So basically, it stays nice and cool. But it's a good place to work in.
Good. Well, you're producing some amazing designs there. Do you have any new ones to show us?
I've got the classic one.
The classic Union Jack, brilliant.
Of course, these Union Jacks, and I've still got quite a few of them.
Okay.
And the latest one I've been working on is actually one. There's a guy it's a present for his son-in-law, but it's I think it's like someone who likes motorcycles, I assume. So it's like a logo.
Oh yeah, Yamaha. Fantastic. What does that say along the bottom? Is that just his name?
Oh, that's the Yamaha slogan. I think it's "Revs Your Heart."
Oh, Revs Your Heart. Oh yeah. Very good.
So it's like
very
fully
good.
Laser engraved stuff. But I also have the dual ones as well. I've got plenty of these ones ready to go as well. So
brilliant. That's a Welsh Dragon and a Union Jack. For those people on TikTok, you'll see the best. We're interviewing Caelan Wynne at the moment, and you'll see him on youtube.com/UK A Force for Good. So, I noticed one that you had done. Yesterday was the 12th of July, and I noticed you had done a really nice Red Hand of Ulster combined with a Union Jack. Do you have that there? If you don't, we've
2 seconds. It's just
okay.
Me.
But yes, folks, look at that. That's it there. Okay.
So it was the only one I didn't have to hand, but it's right beside me, just here. So yeah, it's a dual one of Ulster.
Look at that.
And the United Kingdom, and it's quite a small. It's a bit smaller than my other one, so it's quite a good like compact size.
Just hold that up now. While it's held up, what's the size of that?
This one's coming in at about 32 inches.
Very good. And if somebody wanted that, it's just simply a matter of how do they contact you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in a piece like this or a custom one, the fastest way to get in touch with me is to go onto Facebook, and it's Dramatic Scotland Creations. And if you drop me a message there, I'm usually pretty fast to reply. And if you have any questions or anything, usually it's just a case of firing me your address, and I can just post it straight off to you. There's no middleman or anything. It's all very much direct. Yeah.
Well, I know you've done two really nice pieces for us. You did a Force for Good flag in wood, which we used all last year as the backdrop for our programme last year. And you've also sent us a really nice Union Jack shield. We've got a picture of the shield here, which we'll just put up as well. And do you have any shields left? See, look at that. That's really.
I think I've got about 4 of them left in stock right now.
Right.
So yeah, if anyone would like a Union Jack shield, fire me a message, and I can definitely get them sent out.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, you know, these shields and the flags and whatever, if you've got a clubhouse or a meeting room or something like that, and on the wall, because they come with the actual hangers, you know, they're fully ready to hang on a wall. And just contact Caelan. And I also tell you something else there. When they're sent to you, because we've received 2 in the post, they're extremely well wrapped up, so there's no danger of any kind of breakage in the post or anything like that. So you can guarantee that when you order it from Caelan, it's going to arrive with you in one piece. Unless that we're talking UK deliveries, but what about people who wanted it for abroad? Do you do that? Because I can imagine that's going to cost a lot to send abroad.
I've just sent one off to Australia, and it cost more. It cost twice as much as the actual piece did. So I can't guarantee it arriving abroad just because of the logistics and because they've got all these nonsense COVID rules and stuff at customs. It's always a bit risky, but in the UK, I can guarantee it arriving every time. And if it arrives damaged or if it gets lost, I will rebuild it. I will send it out again, no extra cost. And I can guarantee that for the whole UK. Good.
And Stephen says, have you ever done a Red Arrows one?
A Red Arrows? I haven't, not yet, no.
I can imagine you'd make quite a good job of that. I don't know if you can visualise it. But I could imagine that could look quite nice, couldn't it? A Red Arrows one, yeah. Yeah, that's an idea to note down. Good. Catherine says she hasn't got one, but she will. There you go, you might have a customer in the future. I
can definitely give her a good price as well.
Eric says that you've done a beautiful piece of woodwork for him. Highly recommended. So good. Good, excellent. And Mark says he bought a Glasgow Rangers one and it was awesome. That's for sure. Yeah. That's for sure.
It's great to see the people in here as well.
Yeah. PBC says, how much for the Union flag? That's just your classic Union flag.
The one that I've got up. So its price is at $125 with postage included, but I will usually let them go to like the Unionists for about 100 or so. That's kind of like my price, but normally on the Facebook marketplace they're $125. But if I know it's like a proper Unionist, I'll do it for 100. Yeah,
well, that's more than it's more than generous, because the quality stuff, and they're not going to degrade, as it were. Yeah, that's the one.
These are the ones that I can let go for £100 each.
Yeah, and of course there's also the shield one, which is almost heavier, isn't it? Really, in a way, the shield.
Yeah, it's thicker. It's got a raised cross. So it's a bit more pronounced.
Yes. Well, we've got one or two other flags here. We'll just put them up, and you can describe them. The ones that haven't already been shown yet. And there's the Lion Rampant.
That's the Lion Rampant Union one, and this one seems to be quite I know. I mean, the thing that I like about this design is it's because I mean I've had requests for like a half Scottish, half UK ones before, but to some extent that's kind of a bit of a strange design. But this one very much hits hard at the Scottish loyalists, because that flag is a Unionist flag, and a lot of the MP crowd, they don't actually realise that when they're waving a Lion Rampant, they're waving the flag for the UK. So
yes.
It's a good way of like merging it together.
Yes. And any other flags that we've got there? That's the Brexit one. Do you have any more? It's got a wee bit at the bottom that says Brexit. It says British Independence Day.
Yeah, that one was actually when did I start making that one? I think I started that one literally on Independence Day itself. This was actually a bit of a subtle dig at the Scottish nationalists, because they always want to go on about their independence. Yes. But they want to be EU dependent. They want to leave the UK, join the EU again. So I was like, well, actually, let's do what the Americans did with like the 1776, but let's do it on a Union Jack and remind people that we are a country as well, and we have our Independence Day. Even if we don't fully have the Brexit we want, even if it's just Brexit in name only, it's still in itself, it's still a concept, but should be respected. So
very much so.
That's why I kind of wanted to create a piece that was a bit more classy. So yeah, that union there, the Independence Day Union, it's like a much more beefed up 32-inch union, and it's got finer trim and stuff, and it's got the plaque, but it does cost quite a bit more. But that's like the upmarket version.
Absolutely, and the wee bit at the bottom there says British Independence Day, 31st January 2020.
That's right, yep.
Yeah, okay. Any other pictures that we have that we haven't shown of? That's the classic Union Jack one.
Yeah, okay. And that's got Urquhart Castle, Loch Ness just behind it. So.
Oh yeah. Okay, I think that's all the ones that we were just ready to show there. Good stuff. PBC says my husband would make it a treat. Well, good flags, that's for sure.
I'd also like to mention, if anyone is interested in them, I can put like a laser engraved plaque on the back that makes it personal. So say if it is for someone's birthday or a wedding anniversary, they can have that like engraved and like attached to the piece on the rear or on the front if they want, just to make it like extra special. So it's not just like a stock item; it can be personalised as well.
Personalised, yeah. That's fantastic. Frankie goes, the Heart of Midlothian with the Union Jack. Mm-hmm. That might be quite good as well, because are you thinking, Frankie? You must be thinking of the Hearts football team as well. So you could probably do something with the Hearts football team and Union Jack. That would also would also have an appeal to certain people. No question about that. Stephen says that he highly recommends them. They are fantastic.
Thank you, Stephen.
And Christopher says fantastic work. Absolutely, yeah. And Catherine just pointing out that your prices are very, very reasonable as well. Well, yeah, good. But so that's good, and we definitely encourage people to. If you're looking for a very unusual gift, then Caelan is your man, no question about it, and does bespoke work as Caelan just mentioned there. You know, if you've got an idea, Caelan will do his best to sort it. But enough of that, Caelan. Who do you want to be the next leader of the Conservative Party? Or have you become too jaded with the whole thing that you prefer just to concentrate on your woodwork?
I mean, this is the thing, yeah. Like I've kind of tried to step back, and this take might be quite unpopular. And I just want to clarify, I am not in support of Labour at all. Right? I think they are bad, but we have to have a look before we decide before we should think about who should be the next Prime Minister. It's worth looking at what has just been left behind by the previous Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, because a lot of people are trying to praise him for his efforts, and I've actually got a wee list of it was basically what Boris has left us with the last 2 years. So he's got, we've got the highest immigration on record, legal and illegal. That was under a Conservative. That was under the Tories, right?
Yes, that was one of the reasons as well that people voted for the Conservatives, because they gave this impression that they were going to somehow get all that under control, but none of that ever happened. And the question is, of course, why? And as I was alluding to earlier, it might simply be that they were trying to please too many people, and especially the Conservatives as well, who are often are scared of the media in a way that maybe people on the left are not so scared of. That some of the Conservative MPs are always trying to please the media, and
they
bend to its will, and whereas people like Margaret Thatcher in the past, of course it was a completely different time. Oh my, the 70s and 80s were completely different to today, but they didn't bend to the media. They set out the agenda, as I was mentioning earlier, and everybody either went along with it or they didn't, but they actually got stuff done. Whereas when you're trying to please everybody, you can't really get stuff done at all.
Well, so it's like they're Conservative in name only. Like nothing they've done has preserved the United Kingdom, and I would go as far as to say as Boris Johnson has actually given the Scottish nationalists the best case for independence by being such a mess the last 2 years. He's embarrassed the UK on so many levels, with promoting the pandemic, the mask mandates, the absurd race to push these dangerous vaccines, on children as well. They really embarrassed themselves, and I honestly think Rishi Sunak will be the next Prime Minister, but this is how far we've lost a sense of our country. Because if the tables were to be flipped, for example, say if a British man was to be in charge of India, the world would go insane. They would scream colonialism, they would scream white supremacy, but we're about to have an Indian man running our country, and not that there's a problem with the race per se, but there's no respect for the actual people. India wouldn't settle for that, China wouldn't settle for that, but we're going to bend over. None of us want that, but because Boris has made Britain look so bad and just lazy and incapable, he's created a vacuum for people who don't really belong here or have our interests at heart. They're going to be in charge, and they're all puppets of the World Economic Forum. They all promote globalism. They're all pro-EU, even if they say that they're pro-Tories.
Yes,
they're just as bad as Labour, because at least Labour are honest when they lie. The Tories just lie, and they both go in the same direction, but Labour goes faster because they promote globalism, but so do the Tories, but just they pretend that they don't.
Yes, I know what you're saying. I personally doubt that Sunak would become the next leader. I don't think the Tory grassroots would stand for that, not necessarily because of the race thing, but rather because he just seems to not have that much in common with most of the Tory grassroots. I mean, he is literally, well, his wife's a billionaire, and he doesn't really. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice enough chap, but I don't know if he's going to get that past the Tory grassroots, and I think it would be troublesome if he did become the Prime Minister, because he seems to me to be really quite in hock with all of this, the whole the financial city of London, the billionaire class, which I think is the real divide between him and the British people in general. And as such, he's not really a man of the people, I think is what I'm really trying to say. And you don't.
No, I totally agree.
You need, if you're not a man of the people, you need to at least be a man that enough people can identify with in some way, shape, or form. But he's really kind of out there. Really, I can understand that he's a big cheese in the London metropolitan elite, but in the rest of Britain, in the Red Wall, in Scotland, in Wales, in Northern Ireland, I don't really see what appeal he has got carrying over in any sense. Whereas at least the Penny Mordaunt woman she seems more normal. If I'm making myself clear here, she seems a little bit more like the sort of person that you would be able to meet on the street in a normal day. So, but it's certainly strange that we're at a situation where the Conservatives have such a dearth, really, of talent. And I have to say it. I mean, they really do. And it's not like there's not conservative-minded people out there. I mean, there's you, there's me, there's lots of others, but none of us ever get close. You know, we get cut out long before we ever get close to even having any kind of say, even in fringe parties, for crying out loud. So it's we're certainly in a very unusual situation at the moment. And thing that also annoys me about all the politicians is like they tell us that they're going to have to put up taxes in some way in order to pay back the money that was allegedly borrowed during COVID. Well, I can tell you none of that money was borrowed. It was simply created by the British Central Bank out of nothing. It wasn't borrowed from anybody. There is nobody that it needs to be paid back to. And yet they're going to create all that money, and then they're going to tell us that we have got to pay it back with money that we made ourselves through our own sweat and blood. It's an absolute con. And I'm not a communist or anything like that, but I totally understand where they're coming from when they're talking about stuff like that. I mean, it's total global capitalism is all it is, and it's just screwing us all. And that needs to be said, and unionists need to say it as well, rather than identifying with the globalist capitalist elite of the City of London, who have got their own interests at heart, but not our interests at heart. Anyway, enough of that point of view. So I get the impression that you're not really taken with any of those candidates there who are standing for the Tories. Okay.
I think we need to go back to like the classic, old-fashioned conservatism. This new version that we've got is just, it's a scam, and they created this image of democracy to us, which is basically a scam. They're trying to trick people into thinking that we have a say when, as you know, as the last 2 years and 2.5 years have shown us, we don't have a say, and they can control us like we're sheep. They can tell us to stay home, they can close our businesses, they can do what they want with us. So
it's been a wake-up call for those of us who are already it's been a wake-up call for those of us who are prepared to get out of bed after we've woken up. It's certainly done that, and in that sense it's been instructive to a small number of us, just the extent to which what we thought was free is not actually is what we thought we had as freedoms we don't actually have. But we will stay positive.
I've got a positive note to end on as well.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Because
I'm struggling to find one, so please.
I know.
Please give it to us.
So basically, I actually I went for a wee trip down to Edinburgh a couple of days ago. I went for a wee cycle down, and what was good was there's a lot more Union flags flying in Edinburgh when I last, because I studied there from 2013 to 2017, and it was very much like, yeah, that was the odd one, but most major buildings along the Royal Mile, they've got a Union Jack flying, and it wasn't that like prominent a few years back. So there's definitely like sentiment is kind of rising.
Good. Good. That's what we want to hear, and that's absolutely get the flag of unity up there. Get the flag of unity flying, and we've got our own flag of unity which we sell here. You've got several, of course, made of wood, and we've got our own bespoke Union Jack which we sell for $4.99 in our shop.
Those ones are good because you can take those ones to marches and protests. Mine can just stay in a home. You know, you can't drag them out. So yeah, it's good to have the fabric ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And our ones have got an open hem and tie here as well to put a pole into, and you can just put that in your glove compartment. So you're driving along one day and you see some Scottish nationalists, and you just like hold that out the window, and you just shout like, "Rule Britannia!" and they all go, "Woo!" It's all good fun. It's all good fun, and so
they love us, really. You know,
they do. They do. We love them.
Yeah,
we have to, because they're our fellow Scots, albeit misguided folk.
Well, that's the
who
other
need
thing.
the truth. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember Neil Oliver? Because I think I mentioned this. Well, I think I might have dropped in a note, but he actually led a point about the actual border between Scotland and England. That's foreign. That's an invention of Italy, Rome. Like they created that. Well, how much? It was like 600 years ago. Like the actual border between England and Scotland was not created by.
Well, it was 1900 years ago. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
1000.
Not good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 122 AD was when
the Romans. Yeah.
Hadrian's Wall began.
Yeah.
And so this is actually the 1900th anniversary of the beginning of the building of Hadrian's Wall, which, as you say, was actually a foreign imposition on our island.
The actual original tribes of Britannia at the time, because that's what that's what the Roman Empire referred to us as. We were just a mixture of tribes. We were not this clean-cut Scotland, England that didn't exist. That was a fabrication that came afterwards. Well, long after the wall was actually constructed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Neil Oliver does a program called Love Letter to the British Isles, and it's really a podcast. Good, and each week or whatever, he'll touch on some area of the country, and he'll talk about its history. And a couple of weeks ago, it was, as you say, it was Hadrian's Wall. You can actually watch that if you just Google Love Letter to the British Isles, Hadrian's Wall. It's on YouTube. Yeah. Well, good points that you made tonight, Caelan, and more power literally to your elbow, which is fashioning great British designs daily, weekly, monthly and yearly until the Scot Nats see clearly that we're down with the United Kingdom.
Just because it's Northern Ireland yesterday, I'll throw it off again. So yeah.
There you go. Anybody who wants that particular Red Hand of Ulster combined with the Union Jack, contact facebook.com/dramatic Scotland. Caelan will definitely get you back next time, and we'll be speaking to you again. So until then,
thank you,
all the very best to you.
Thanks for letting me on and letting me express my work again. It's very kind of you, and thanks to everyone watching.
Happy to do so. Cheers then. Bye.
See you.
Caelan Wynne, folks. And thank you for your thoughts, Caelan. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, Caelan was talking about Union Jacks flying. One of our supporters came up to us in Argyle Street and saw our flag there in the background and goes, "Do you have any that I can purchase from you?" And we had one left. And so we sent it to him, and he's flying it in his garden, and we've got a photograph of that which we'll put up. It's a 5x3 flag. There it is, look at that, flying there, flying high in this chap's front garden in Glasgow. Wonderful, wonderful. Now we don't have any more of that flag, but here's a question to you. Do you think we should get more of them in? They're 5x3 flags, and we could do a print run and we'd sell them, but we'd have to sell them for around about 20 to 25 pounds. They're not cheap, those bespoke flags. That's actually good quality fabric as well. What I also thought as well when I looked at that picture is, you know what we could do? We could do a run of 200, 250 3x2 AFFG Union Heart Flags. Okay, they'd be the same size as our 3x2 Union Jack. They'd be the same size as this, but they would be that flag in the background, but without the website address, and it would have a bespoke hem and tie and the whole 9 yards. So if you think that's an idea, then please do drop your thoughts into the comments there. We'd have to sell it for about a £5. Even at that, though, we'd only be making about £1 profit, because if we were to get 250 3x2 AFFG Union Heart Flags done, we're not going to get much change out of 750 quid. But we'll look at that. We can't do it just now. We might do it after, if that money was to come in at, say, a Christmas crowdfunder or something like that, or if somebody's feeling generous and just wants to send us 750 quid. But for that, we could get 250 3x2 Force for Good flags with hem ready just to wave. That might be that's an idea. Now, lovely, great. Thank you to everybody who has been watching tonight. Now, we're going to be back next week, next Wednesday. We shall be back, and we look forward again to seeing you there. Brilliant. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everybody who has participated tonight. It's been a great show, gone so quickly, and so much to say as well. Thank you especially to our guest and to everybody who's commented, and hopefully you will have learned lots of good stuff. And basically, let's hope and pray for the best for our fantastic United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So it just remains for me to say, until we see you next week, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the Queen. See you next week.